Hi, it's Sam here, and welcome back for the 6th edition of the Q&A series. Today I've got a mix of questions, half a dozen as normal, and they're a range of things, some a bit more health, some a bit more bodybuilding, some staying on track. If you want to have your question featured in the next one, pop it in the comments. If you don't understand anything, put it in the comments as well. On Instagram, I'm at Physique Philosopher, same name if you want to contact me there. And let's get going with this edition. So first question. I'm experiencing lots of bloat all the time and was wondering whether to change my diet or what to do. My doctor prescribed me omeprazole. Is there anything else I can take? Right, there's lots of things that you can do about bloat and like abdominal discomfort. It's kind of like associated with certain foods, usually not with certain foods usually as well. So when people try and wind all of this all the way back with food, it's called an elimination diet. The most extreme way of doing that is fasting completely and then adding in foods back one by one. Almost as extreme as just winding it back to one kind of meat like beef and then adding from there. I don't think you need to go that far because it's normally certain culprits in the diet that cause more bloating. So for a lot of people it's dairy because they don't digest lactose very well. The hard cheeses are actually fairly low lactose, so if you had some dairy still, it would be the hard cheeses, but not the soft ones, not the milk. You might want to tinker with that. Another thing to look at is wheat. Like some people don't get on too well with that. Wheat and gluten, and remove those kind of things. So certain grains you might want to wind back to just rice. And then when it comes to vegetables, it's more the cruciferous vegetables that cause like gas and bloating. The cruciferous vegetables are basically the flowering ones. So you're talking broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, a couple of other things. But if you stick to the ones that are more like leaves and stems and other starches, you'll probably be okay. So you could play with all of those different variables and set the diet. That's probably going to be a bit more of a long-term thing. With the medication, that's more of a short-term fix. That's not something that you want to be relying on, for weeks and months going on forwards. And I think you've expressed that the omeprazole hasn't worked. And I'm not really surprised because that's more of a heartburn and acid reflux type thing, which is not what you're describing here. Like wind and bloating and abdominal discomfort is a little bit different to that feeling up here and acid refluxy heartburn thing. If you do have that, and sometimes when guys are on cycle with like hard orals, it's quite common to get that acid reflux kind of thing, and that's when it's useful to have omeprazole in stock. That does work very well from 1 or 2 days use, but it doesn't really seem like applicable to your situation with the bloating here. I would say that medicine-wise, something you can pick up is anything that's got simethicone in it. So that's the ingredient name in it. If you look up the kind of bloating and gas kind of tablets or capsules or crunchy ones that they have. Sometimes the brands are called like Wind Ease or things like that. I think some of the pharmacies have their own brands as well. You look on the back of the packet, if it's got simethicone, that ingredient, that can reduce gas and bloating pretty quickly, and you consume that tablet about half an hour after each meal. You should see some kind of relief from that if you want something instantly. Then some other people find it very useful to have a hot bath. That basically relaxes you completely inside and lets you like kind of as politely as possible, let go of some of the like trapped wind, gas and whatever. So that can be really helpful to have like a muscle relax soak bath, and even like massage your stomach. That can be really helpful. I found that helpful. So those 3 things: the dietary changes, simethicone, the bath and relax, in combination should really work. But really long term you want to be looking at what's causing it in the diet, and I've made the main suggestions there. So good luck with that. It's definitely not comfortable to be bloating all the time, but it's usually like a food cause, and the omeprazole is more an acid reflux kind of thing. So good luck with all of that. Next question. You mentioned the fast twitch fibres and growth and reps in one of your recent leg videos. Do you think that's something for us to keep in mind? Yes, I do. So not the last leg video that I published, but the one before that. I was talking about high reps and lower body versus slightly lower reps, like 8 to 12 and upper body. What's going on there is basically all of the muscles contain a combination of fast twitch fibres and slow twitch. Slow twitch is more what's associated with endurance activity and being able to keep going for a long time. The fast twitch is more strength and power. the fast twitch fibres have more capacity for growth, or the nerds speak like hypertrophy. So what that means is when someone's genetically amazing for bodybuilding, typically they will have a higher proportion of fast twitch fibres throughout their body, or in certain places that then turn out to be their strong points, which it gets revealed after several years of training. The reason why we alter this for upper body and lower body is because people typically, even though these ratios vary through every body and every muscle group, very typically it's normal to have a greater proportion of slow twitch fibres in the legs and the lower body, because we're more reliant on them as human beings for endurance activities such as walking, jogging, as opposed to the upper body, which would be more like fighting and short bursts. So they do have potential for growth as well, not as much as the fast twitch, but if there's more of them there, you want to be hitting that either more or more often, or keeping it in mind more to get the growth out of what's there. So that's basically why we look at higher reps, which work those fibres more, higher rep ranges than the slightly lower ones. So we might say 10 to 20 for lower body in each set, and more like 8 to 12 for the upper body. And this accords with anecdote that we hear from bodybuilders. We hear it more often, people saying that they got really good leg development when they switched to slightly higher reps. We hear that more regularly than we hear people getting more development out of their upper body by doing the same strategy. So definitely have a play around with it. I've definitely found it useful, and that's the basic reason why. Next question. What should I do if I've fallen off plan over Christmas or at any other time? So this is like a timely question, because we're now I'm recording this on the day after Boxing Day, so some of us are kind of roughly getting back to normality now, and it's absolutely fine. I would just say that don't feel bad about whatever you've done. Like, we all need a break. In previous videos I've said, don't make yourself miserable by staying 100% on plan if Christmas and socialising is something that you do enjoy. Just try and mitigate the damage and go through from there. But even if you've ended up in a position where you've been 100% off plan for an entire week, there's no point crying over spilt milk, as it were. There's no point beating yourself up about it. There's no point denying it. If you're working with a coach, there's no point trying to convince them that nothing's gone wrong, or worrying about it. They should be sympathetic to it, because ultimately you can't change what's already happened. And I think just pick up where you are. So from the next point that you're doing a check on your measurements and stuff, just be honest about it and adjust and re-pick it up from there. But there's no point having any regrets over it. It's just take stock of where you are, be honest about it, and being realistic about moving forwards. And I've been a lot more relaxed the last couple of days. Obviously, I'm off season, not looking to compete soon, so I've got a little bit more leeway, and I've got the size that demands more food and can sort of get away with it more than most people. But wherever you're at, we've probably had some kind of break, and there's no point worrying about it once it's done. Next question. Would you move to open bodybuilding? I think it would be a good idea. Yeah, I've considered it. I think in the fullness of time, because of my height, the greatest potential would be for me with classic. I can hold a decent vacuum when I'm like dieting, not when I'm full up with food like this. But I have like quite a tapered shape, and I think for the size that's demanded for open, for me to be the biggest up there at the highest levels, I'd have to be like the size and weight of some absolute monster like Greg Kovacs or something, and that's not something that I'm prepared to do, in all honesty. So I don't think open for me all the way through, but I think as I'm an amateur and there are lots of options and different expectations in different shows, I'll definitely consider open bodybuilding, tall category with PCA. Not looking to compete 2024, not looking to rush it, but it's definitely something that I would consider. Probably would give that a go while I've got the opportunity to. And these classic guys, the good ones though, they're bigger than people realise, and they're playing all sorts of games to squeeze as much muscle into the weight limits, and the weight limits have been increased this year. So, even the size of classic is getting further and further as people get more advanced in squeezing as much into it, and the limits get increased. That they're still really big guys, and for me to have the open proportions at 6'3", it's a bit preposterous. So I think ultimately me for classic, but at kind of amateur shows and not the NPC stuff, there'd be opportunities for me to do open bodybuilding that I'd be really curious about. So wouldn't rule it out. Next question. How are you making the multiple videos in one frame on your Instagram reels? Yeah, so I've got a really convoluted method for doing that. And it's just because I want to make them as customized as possible, so that I can choose which one I want the big main one to be. If you don't know what this is, if you go on my Instagram at Physique Philosopher, what I do is all of the workouts that I put on YouTube, I summarize them on one reel. You know, there's no carousel to it, there's no swiping through. There's just one page with 5 or 6 videos all shrunk down, so that you can see the whole workout and what the exercises were at what glance and what in one glance. And it has a kind of theme or title, like I've got triceps all angles workout, or quad focused compound exercises, and you can just look at that at a glance rather than skipping through my YouTube. So they're on there, and the way that I make them is obviously I film the whole workout and then I chop those little bits out, and in OpenShot editor I put them alongside each other and then rearrange them around, pick the segment that I'm going to use. Then I use video AI to set the frame that they're going to be okay for the reels. Sorry, getting a little bit, this is not pure bodybuilding, it's the technical bit now, but you know, if you're a coach or you like producing content, maybe this is useful. And then the final thing is that I actually download them and upload them within Instagram, so that I can choose the music from their database to put them on, because I like some metal with it, basically. So that's how I make them, and I try and have this workflow where I can make, you know, no duplication, and I can make the long content for YouTube and then pull out the summaries that are quick and more convenient for people that contact me on Instagram and look at the stuff there. So check them out. That's how I make them. That's why I make them, just for ease and less flicking through if you're not interested to watch everything on YouTube, which I'm sure most people wouldn't be. And that's how I do them. Last question for today. I'm pre-diabetic and experiencing high blood pressure. My doctor says this can be regulated or reversed through diet and lifestyle. How does this work? Well, it sounds like your doctor's pretty forward thinking, and you're best to take their advice on this. It is good that they're doing it that way rather than looking straight to medications for things like high blood pressure, like enalpram and similar. And it can be reversed, both pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is when you're getting close to type 2 diabetes through lifestyle and diet, and you're getting close to that, but you're not quite within the definition of that just yet. It's definitely something to keep an eye on, as is high blood pressure. So there's that medication route, and it sounds pretty forward-thinking of your doctor to say that we can manage this with diet and lifestyle. So go with what they say first and foremost. I do know that processed foods, ultra-processed foods, do raise blood pressure. I've observed that in myself and reined it in massively. I've also seen lots of studies and lots of work by doctors. Dr. David Unwin, in particular, has shown how you can get type 2 diabetes into remission. He was awarded NHS Innovator of the Year a few years ago because of all the costs that he was saving around dealing with type 2 diabetes for the NHS by showing people the lifestyle route instead. And that was basically teaching people about how much glucose is in all different foods. He had these infographics, and people were putting type 2 diabetes into remission, which would be the same methods for being pre-diabetic, because you're basically on that course. So I'd say Dr. David Unwin's stuff would be well worth looking up. You can find all of that and similar on the Public Health Collaboration website, so phcuk.org. Highly recommend that if you're looking at diet and lifestyle interventions for non-communicable diseases like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. I used to do a bit of charity work with them, so cannot recommend that stuff enough, and they really break it down in useful infographics, all of which you can download from the website. So I'd say speak to your doctor, maybe look at the David Unwin stuff, Dr. David Unwin, look at the PHC website, maybe show that to your doctor, and we can work through it like that for sure. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you for listening. Any comments, questions, let me know below. If you like my explanations or workouts or anything else, please consider subscribing or checking out my Instagram at Physique Philosopher. Cheers.